Well, we're still in the Fruit Tree Guild, and we just talked about pruning our peaches. Those were the trees that we had planted, and we originally cut to that 15 to 24 inch height upon planting.
Right, for the high density type of training.
Correct, to have that lower branching. So then we planted this metally plum probably 3-4 months ago. Now this one we chose because it's already been trained to the higher canopy.
Right.
And so we need to talk about how to prune these guys as well.
We do, and for everybody to understand that it is a choice.
Right.
Sometimes the high density method is for you, and you want to keep that low fruiting canopy, especially if you have things like seniors working on trees, or you have children working in the garden with you, or if it's just your style and choice.
Right.
And especially when you want to grow a group of trees together. But sometimes you want that higher fruit canopy, and you can still have a very productive tree with that. So you don't necessarily have to cut them all back.
Right. It gives people anxiety.
It does sometimes. And it also depends on the age of the tree and the can that you buy it.
Right.
How long it's been trained in the nursery. You know, it's not one size fits all.
No, it is not. So when they come, they're going to come with the stake.
Right.
Why do I have this stake here?
Okay, the stake is here to stabilize the root system.
Right.
So that the wind doesn't, you know, it allows it time to root in.
Sure.
If the tree is moving and the roots are constantly moving while it's trying to root in, that's not good for the tree. So we only want to leave the stake long enough for the roots to start getting established. Then we don't need it anymore, and we really do want to remove it.
Then, yeah.
Right. Going to snip that. Because what can end up happening is that eventually you can girdle the tree.
Right, and that, you know, time gets by.
Right, it does. You forget about them. Bamboo lasts forever. It's a really good material to use in the nursery, but not necessarily something that we want to leave on the tree. And trees don't need to be staked for their lifetime.
No, they do not.
Yeah. Then the other thing we want to do is check the label. And I have a couple of recommendations here. One, we want to keep these kind of loose. So all I want to do is just loosen that so that it doesn't become something that girdles.
Sure.
But in all honesty,
you can just
in
remove
our
it.
Heat and humidity, they're going to decay eventually and fall off. So if you want to keep your trees labeled, there are better labels that you can do that. They need to hang on the tree like an earring, not be held tight to the trunk. Or you can use a sign or stake outside of the tree. Or one of the easiest things for homeowners to do is just use a map that tells you where your trees are.
Keep a journal.
Yeah,
exactly.
Easy way to do it. So that would be number one. Then about that dead, diseased, dying, and dinky.
Yes.
We have a few things here that are just broken. We'll remove those. This growth is you know, already gone.
Right.
So we'll remove that to start out with. Then the next thing I see with this tree is that we have competing leaders.
Yes, you do.
With a very narrow crotch here. So we need to choose the one that we want to leave, and I think that this one eventually is going to be our straighter leader.
Okay.
So we would remove this one, and we really do want to look here that we can see definitely this collar right here.
Right.
And we want to remove it with a slight angled cut just right above that collar. We never want to cut into the collar. Turn your pruners so that the narrow side
Turn
is
them over.
inside. Yeah. And then you can get in it better, I think.
Okay.
Just from an angle standpoint. Perfect. Awesome, Beverly.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're in much better shape there. We'll remove this little one here. And then we need to decide, how tall do we want this tree to be?
Right.
Fruit trees are not meant to be shade trees.
No.
So we can eliminate that right away. And then we really do want to keep a tree that we can maintain, hopefully standing flat on the ground.
Right, and harvest.
And for harvest. And thinning the fruit.
Right.
And examining it to see if you have any issues and getting ahead of them before they get away from you. So this is also going to be different for different people.
Yes.
I'm 5'4", you're
5'10".
So we're going to have trees of different heights. I like to keep them so that I can maintain them standing flat on the ground in my height, which is going to give me about 7 feet of height.
Okay.
For you, it might be a little taller.
Well, let's go with 7.
So let's just go.
Yeah.
And we want to cut to an outward facing bud, a bud that faces outside the tree.
Ooh,
there we
sorry.
go. It's okay. It's not the first time I've cut a limb. Then after that, we want to start looking at things like our crotches. We really want about 45 to 60 degree crotches.
Okay.
So we have a good crotch width here, but then it's starting to grow up. So we might want to put a tree spreader here.
Right.
and give it a little better angle. This one is almost too much of an angle, but we'll leave it for now.
So I'm going to go back to the tree spreader for just a moment. So at what point is a limb too big to use a tree spreader?
That's a very good question.
Okay.
You do want to do them when they're young.
Okay.
When they're super young, you can even use something as small as a clothespin.
Right.
And you can clothespin to the trunk and just put the ears of the clothespin out, and that will hold it at a good angle.
Okay.
But if it gets to the point where we're lost this flexibility,
okay,
if you have to pull and you're risking cracking this,
right,
that's too much.
Too much. Okay.
So it's really something that's better done young.
Okay.
So even these can still be spread.
Right.
I can do this without stressing the tree out too much.
Okay.
But don't risk it. And then sometimes if you're trying to rejuvenate a tree that's a little older and got away from you, sometimes if you have a very narrow crotch and this is too stiff to move, the choice there is to sort of leave this as an intermediate branch. Right. Choose an outward facing bud, trim everything off before that, and allow that to be your eventual
new growth to go out.
Yeah, it's kind of like training a candelabra, just out, out, out. Sometimes the very vertical pears are trained by choice. Okay. You'll let a very tight whorl come up, prune that down to an outward bud. When those grow up, they're going to turn vertical, prune to an outward bud, and you can just step out like a layer cake.
Perfect. Yep. Good analogy.
So with the rest of these, again, the tip of this has had some dieback, so we want to just cut it back a little bit just to give it some stimulation for growth. We want to always choose the outward facing buds. Same thing there, an outward facing bud. And
perfect.
We're really pretty much done with that. We'll add a few spreaders in a couple of days. And this tree is off to a good start.
Now we have created a couple of open wounds.
We have.
So in interest of the health of the tree and any insect or disease issues that might come in, this is amazing.
It is. IV Organics is a great product because it's organic and it's breathable.
Right.
The old tar-based wounding paints are not good. You never want to close off a wound so that it can't breathe. That interferes with the tree's normal wound response.
Right, exactly.
Trees will scar over just like we do when we're wounded. So for these, just a little spray of this at your cuts. These smaller cuts really aren't probably an issue. Right. And you're at a better angle for that one.
Okay. And we'll get this big one here.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
And like I say, it's breathable. It won't interfere with the natural callousing, and it's just a great product.
It's a great product, absolutely. No matter what you're pruning.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, roses.
Good for the
everything.
roses.
Yep.
All right.
Wonderful. I can't wait to see what happens later this spring.
I'm ready for some plums.